you need to complete a program that adds, subtracts, multiplies, or divides fractions. So here's what the running program looks like. So for example, if I have a fraction 1/2 and another fraction 1/4, let's keep it really simple, and I choose to add a half and 1/4, I should get 3/4. So of course you know how to add fractions. You need a common denominator. In this case that would be 4, so this is like 2/4 plus 1/4 is 3/4. I can of course subtract, I end up with 1/4. I can multiply. You know, of course, to multiply fractions you just go straight across. 1 times 1 across the numerator, 2 times 4 across the denominator. And of course dividing is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal of this. So this would be multiplying by 4 over 1, which would give me 4 over 2. And in fact, this function that you're writing, the program that you're writing, needs to simplify fractions at the end. So this is what you need to do. Complete functions to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And I did give you the starting code right here. This is all the starting code. I wrote the form section for you, so you do not need to recreate this form. You just have to write the functions which do the adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And here up at the top, I have them. Of course, these functions will be run when the user clicks these buttons. So we could take a quick look at the add function. So these first 4 lines of code in the add function, all they're doing is getting the information that is in these little input boxes and putting them in variables. So all I'm doing is grabbing the form, the numerator of the first fraction, the numerator of the second fraction, and the denominator of both of them. And I'm putting them in variables n1, n2, d1, d2. So this is just, again, just grabbing information from the actual form and sticking it into a variable, n1, and so forth. So you're going to use these variables, n1, n2, d1, d2, to add the fractions. Now, I declared a couple of other variables for you, numerator answer and denominator answer. Perhaps you will set these to the answer that you get when you add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And then these last 2 lines of code, which I wrote for you, all they're doing is taking your resulting answers, num answer and den answer, this is the numerator and denominator answer, it's taking those values and putting them back into these output boxes. This is very important that you understand what's going on here. When I'm writing these functions right here, when you're going to write the functions, the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting the values in the form and putting them in these little local variables. These are like script variables, I guess, if you remember BYOB. I'm putting them in these little script variables, which I'm then going to use to calculate the numerator and denominator answer. And then at the end, I'm taking those answers and putting them back into these output fields. So notice in programming, this value gets put into this. This value is put into this. Here I'm taking the value of the form and putting it to these local variables. So again, all you need to do is complete this code to do the adding, and it's going to be very similar. Once you get this going, it's going to be very similar for subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. And the trickiest function perhaps is the simplify function. Here you're going to have to, I hate to use the word reduce, but here you're going to figure out how to write the fraction in its simplest form. So it's a little bit trickier than the other ones. Perhaps don't worry about this yet. Do the add, subtract, multiply, and divide first. And then the other thing, of course, you need to do is after you do the addition, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, you should be running the method to the function to simplify. And the way to run a function is you just say the name of that function. So the last thing you're going to do in the add function is run the simplify function. So you're going to do that just by typing simplify. So hopefully this makes sense. I started you off on the add function, and you're going to need lines of code very similar to this for the subtract, multiply, divide. Simplify is going to also have similar lines, but you're going to be just getting information from the answer here and simplifying it and putting it back into the answer. So simplify is a little bit trickier, but I think you can do it. You know, I don't want to write your code for you, so go for it and get to work.